is about the ratings, Standard and Poor, about which my senior colleague Prakash Javadekar ji had spoken to you all yesterday. The finance minister has come out very strongly rejecting the S&P report. He has gone to the extent of saying S&P ratings are not based on fresh rating action. I'm quoting the finance minister on this. S&P ratings are not based on fresh rating action. And between April 2012 and now, there are no significant events to indicate that the economy is vulnerable. These are words of the finance minister. Unfortunately, within a few hours after that, you had these figures about April industrial production also coming down, almost touching zero, was revealed. And that's happening in April. And finance minister had said between April and now, ऐसे एक इंडिकेटर कुछ नहीं है जिसके तहत आप S&P ऐसे बोल सकते हैं. बिल्कुल अप्रैल में ही इंडस्ट्रियल प्रोडक्शन गिरा. It has come down to zero. Just as a fig leaf, you have 0.1%. The economy is in a state of shambles. There is no doubt about that. And if you reject S&P's report, as foreigners do not understand our system here, particularly because S&P had said the division of power between the Prime Minister and the UPA chairperson has led to the policy paralysis. Very well, you don't want S&P report, it's fine. But your own chief economic advisor, Shri Kaushik Basu, only last Friday, talking at Exim Bank's gathering in Mumbai, has said that economic paralysis is because what is happening here in the country. You reject the S&P report, I have no issues with that. And I would like to quote what Dr. Kaushik Basu has said in the Exim Bank's meeting in Mumbai. I'm just reading those couple of lines which will help us to understand the context. He is the chief economic advisor to the government today. Domestic problems rather than the global economy's woes explain much of the slowdown. ये कौशिक बासु जी के लाइन है. It is not responsible for us to say, to shy away from that fact. We owe it to our country to point out that fact. ये कौशिक बासु जी के लाइन है. ठीक है, आप S&P के क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं कि इकोनॉमिक पैरालिसिस के बारे में वो क्या समझ सकते हैं, ये डिविजन ऑफ पावर बिटवीन सोनिया जी और प्राइम मिनिस्टर के बारे में वो बोलने को क्या अधिकार है, ये सब बात सही है. मगर आपके अपने चीफ इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर खुद कह रहे हैं मुंबई में एक्सिम बैंक के मीटिंग में, डोमेस्टिक प्रॉब्लम ही प्रॉब्लम है, ग्लोबल वोस नहीं है. इसको भी आप नकारेंगे क्या? और अप्रैल में जो प्रोडक्शन कंप्लीटली जीरो के आ गए हैं, उसको कौन जिम्मेदारी लेंगे? Dr. Kaushik Basu also went further, which is important for us to understand. We don't need another S&P report to tell us that. He's already told us something in advance. He was speaking about spirals of optimism and spirals of despair. I'm quoting here. Dr. Basu has said, it is suffering, India is suffering from the second type of spiral today, which is the spiral of despair. And it is not clear what might break it. मगर उन्हें मालूम नहीं है कि कौन सा ऐसे कदम उठाने में ये स्पाइरल ऑफ डेस्पेयर रुक जाएगा. मतलब डायरेक्शनलेसनेस. सरकार में डायरेक्शन नहीं है, लीडरशिप नहीं है, उनको पता भी नहीं है कि कैसे ये स्पाइरल ऑफ डिस्पेयर को तोड़ें. This is what BJP has been saying all the while. I am glad that the advisor, chief economic advisor to the government himself has confessed to this in his meeting with the Exim Bank people. The government does not know how to break this spiral. And therefore, in political language, when we are talking, we said there is no leadership there, and that is because there is a complete disconnect between the political leadership and the leadership which is sitting in executive leadership which is led by Dr. Manmohan Singh. Let us not anymore play with words. I think the government deserves to give, the government owes it to the people to give a very clear explanation as to what are the steps they are going to take to lift this economy which has reached the bottommost level. ये अभी जिम्मेदारी सरकार की बनती है कि ऐसे कैसे कदम उठाएंगे आप इस स्पाइरल ऑफ डिस्पेयर से इस देश को निकालने के लिए, उठाने के लिए. इसीलिए S&P की रिपोर्ट को आप प्लीज आपके मनपसंद लैंग्वेज में रिजेक्ट करिए, मगर आप डॉक्टर कौशिक बासु के लाइंस को रिजेक्ट करेंगे क्या? और अगर करेंगे, प्लीज टेल अस व्हाई. ही इज आफ्टर ऑल योर चीफ इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर. The third issue, interestingly, is of a group of ministers who are on a tour around the country, visiting preferably non-Congress states, finding out how they are probably not functioning as the union government is functioning, as though that is an ideal. I'm being absolutely sarcastic because I think it's outrageous that when there are very, very serious issues on which the union cabinet, specifically ministers, will have to attend to, we have a group of ministers visiting all non-Congress states and raising issues which are very important. Yes, absolutely. But when they have not answered the country on 2G as to who is finally responsible for it, on Commonwealth Games as to what action has been taken, on the Shunglu Committee's report, which was Prime Minister's own committee report, where several doable, actionable suggestions were made. You have not answered the country on it. You have not answered the country on what is happening in ISRO Devas or Adarsh, where several serious loss-making decisions were taken and questions have been asked in the parliament for which till today you don't get answers. Adarsh, on which you find 3 chief ministers have been left, right and center allocating flats to their own relatives. We don't have answers on that. We don't have answers on the coal mining issue on which there is only time being bought, saying let's wait for the CAG report, there may be something, but don't talk on preliminary report. With so many things, you have a group of ministers, and again in it, there is a minister who should be keeping up law, and just now we finished off a little, dialogue on how repeatedly he has been held up for breaking law in terms of misleading people with promises which cannot be, kept up. And another minister who doesn't want to subject himself to any kind of investigation, almost like a touch me not. No, you can't. You can't ask for an investigation on certain ministers. They go around to states to ask about what kind of developmental activities are happening. And if they really want to do that, they should really compare. For instance, today they are in Gujarat. They should really be comparing with the same measures with which they want to assess Gujarat, the neighboring Maharashtra, where the last 15 years Congress party has been distributing flats to ministers' relatives, where there are suicides of farmers and no electricity for farmers 24/7. Where there are a lot of scandals coming out every day about how the government's failures are very clearly being observed. If indeed the group of ministers want to highlight achievements and failures of states, they should really be doing a complete comparison between Congress-ruled states and non-Congress-ruled states. Promises were given that within 100 days we'll do this. We will form a group to see how best, what kind of doables can be done on black money issue also. What has happened? Even in the court you've given only half-hearted lists. What efforts have been taken to get black money? What efforts have been taken to control terror or to even take care of Naxal problems, which is again an interstate problem? Many states are involved, centers are involved. We find group of ministers going around to different states to question and also to compare performance. When in parliament there was no electricity, villages in Gujarat had 24/7 electricity. And therefore, welcome group of ministers, please, yes, go to states, understand how good governance works. Good administration serves all people and not people of only some sections. Rather than going to point fingers based on misleading statistics. Thank you.